This is Sky News live from Downing Street as the UK joins US-led airstrikes on Syria. Well, a little earlier, my colleague Dermot Murnahan spoke to Danny Makki. He's a journalist based in western Damascus and heard the attacks earlier this morning.
Well, it's been a very long and interesting evening, to be honest. So at around 4:30 in the early hours of the morning, a series of strikes took place in Damascus, which woke me in this neighborhood and this entire capital city up. About 10 or 11 consecutive strikes and attacks, followed by a response from Syrian air defenses who were firing S-200 missiles and tracer fire into the skies. And initially, from the outset, it was clear that this is a US attack. These are not like the typical sounds of war you hear in Damascus, and this is something far bigger. And it turned out to be US, French, and UK-led assault, to be honest. And the three military sites have been struck in particular. The first of them is a research facility called in Berze in East Damascus. And that's a research laboratory which is very well known and has had previous history for issues such as research to chemical weapons, and it's a military academy as well. The second of those is Mezze Military Airport, which is the only military airport within Damascus, and the third of those is very close to an area in western Damascus where I'm actually based at the moment, is called Jamraya Research Facility, and that's a huge complex of different buildings and research facilities and academies. And these three sites were struck in tandem with one another. So over the duration of the 50-minute aggression which happened, which in between pauses, of course, saw many strikes in these different areas around Damascus, these three sites in particular were destroyed and targeted. Now, it remains to be seen exactly what the damage is in particular. However, we do know that other strikes have also taken place in Hama, such as Masyaf Research Facility, and further south in Homs, where there have been a report of Russian air defenses joining up with Syrian air defenses to deter or warn away rockets. I've actually recently just heard Russian jets in the sky in Damascus trying to ward away any future US, UK, and French aggression on Syria within the next few hours. But as you can imagine, it's a sense of surprise and shock in Damascus here over the previous 4 or 5 hours, as no one was expecting this strike to happen today. Over the last 2 days, we've seen, you could argue in essence, a de-escalation of this conflict where it would probably be solved by diplomatic means. And people here, to their surprise, woke up to the sounds of cruise missiles and jets in the air. And I can finally confirm to you that there are jets and rockets in the air, both when the strikes took place. So it does show a double-pronged attack from not just missiles fired from the Mediterranean, but warplanes, British and American in particular. I can unequivocally confirm that Russian jets have been in the sky over the previous 2.5 to 3 hours patrolling Syrian airspace around Damascus, around Homs, and around Al-Qalamun. I've heard this and I've almost seen this in Damascus, whereas the latter two locations have been confirmed by a lot of journalists and reporters who were following events there. And Russia has been caught by surprise, you could argue here, because all of the statements over the previous 2 days had actually shown that the Russians would be prepared in defending Syria from such an attack. But so far, what we do know is that the only air defenses which have been fired at this attack by the US and the UK and France were Syrian air defenses, which I could hear from a local air defense station nearby. And what was reported also is that 13 rockets have been reportedly downed through Syrian air defenses. Now, this perhaps might be an exaggerated report, but I can confirm it is consistent with what I've been hearing since the morning of tracer fire in the air and S-200s being fired at the rockets incoming in Damascus. And it's very important to assess the next 48 hours because the Russians, the Syrians, and even the Iranians, and Hezbollah for that matter, might perhaps consider some sort of response in the coming days and weeks.